The first thing a person has to realize is that children are not theirs. What do I mean? There's a famous medrash which you're probably all familiar with, where Reb Meir's wife was home during Shalosh Shudas. I think the medrash is brought down in Mishlei. I think it's in Mishlei on Isha Yiras Hashem Hitis Halal. The medrash is about Bruria Eishes Reb Meir, and I believe the medrash goes something along the lines that Reb Meir was in shul in the Beis HaKnesses for Shalosh Shudas, and their two children died Shabbos afternoon, and she covered them over. And when Reb Meir came home, Eishes Reb Meir, Bruria, asked Reb Meir, what's the halacha when a shomer comes to pick up his pikadon? So Reb Meir said, what's the question? You have to give back the pikadon to the shomer. So she said, well, that's what I did. The shomer came to pick up his two pikdonos, his two articles that he left with us, and I gave them back. And then she showed him that their two children had died. Exactly what happened, why they both died, I'm not sure, I don't remember. I don't know if the medrash says. And I think the number one a person has to realize is that when a person feels like something of theirs was taken away from them, that certainly adds to the pain, to the hole, to the sorrow, to the heart that's broken and full of knots. But what makes it more difficult is that my thing was taken away. When a person is able to process, and it takes time, when a person is able to process that which they had was never really theirs as something that you own, but that you just had the schus to be a shomer and to watch that thing for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided now he wants to take back his articles that he entrusted with you. Yeah, so it definitely would be nice and it would be more helpful, if you may, that Hashem would warn us and say, by the way, the thing that you've been watching for me, the child that you've been watching for me, I'm coming to pick them up. Maybe that would help if we had some sort of a warning. But we don't understand Darkei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and He comes to take them when He decides it's time. But when a person can internalize and realize that what was taken away is something that never really belonged to him, it was never hers, I think it makes a difference in being able to process and get through the ordeal. In other words, again, this doesn't minimize the pain, because the pain comes from being so attached and then all of a sudden it's taken away. But when one can internalize and realize that what was taken away was something that never really belonged to him or her as owned, but just it was sort of, you were doing a favor, so to say, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and He entrusted you and He's taking them back. It makes it easier, I feel at least, to deal with and hopefully move along. We lost a almost 2.5-year-old healthy daughter, Elisheva Miriam, in very short. It was a Monday night. She had supper. She ate actually with more appetite than usual, at least I remember. And during the night she sounded much more congested than what we would think is a regular cough. And we were living in Denver at the time, and there's I'm not sure there's something called RSV, which is some sort of a breathing condition that many children have over there because of the high altitude, which usually lasts for only a year, and our daughter was one of those that had RSV. but she was already 2.5, so that was ruled out. But we had what's called a nebulizer, so because of that, so we decided to use that during that night, and my wife, I remember, steamed up the bathroom to, try to moisturize the air a little bit, and she sat with the Elisheva and Miriam in the bathroom for quite some time. Tuesday morning, my wife made a doctor's appointment, took her to the doctor, and she died in the doctor's office. Which is what you would call, obviously, a very sudden patira, a very sudden death. And, some people, how did you manage the sudden separation? I can't even fathom what you went through, which is true, very true. But then, when I personally heard about others who lost children after a long, drawn-out sickness, I couldn't imagine how in the world did they see a child suffer for so long and then after all that lose a child. So every situation, every loss, every circumstance, everyone is different. Every single situation is different. I know that one of the things that really comforted us, I guess, is, and I probably heard this from a few people, from I think my Rosh Hashiva of Osband and a few others, but the way he said it really made an impact on us. He also lost a child right before Bas Mitzvah, and it was 6 months after he lost his child that we lost our child, and he flew out to Denver to be Menachem Aval us, and he really pumped us with a lot of chizuk. And one of the things, I'm trying to remember, but I believe there's 2 or 3 things that he told us when he came to Denver that really helped us. One of them was, I believe it was a brother-in-law of his or somebody who lost a child in Eretz Yisrael, and seemingly this couple, or at least the father, was being very, very hard on himself and sort of feeling guilt and taking blame, and what did he do wrong that this happened? His approach was very harsh, and I can't remember now if it was Reb Chaim Kanievsky or somebody like of that caliber, I don't remember exactly, came in and told him, and he said, do you think that your maisim, that your deeds, that your averos are so impactful that because of that Hashem will take away your child? And he said something sort of like, that's gaiva. To think that you were the cause of the death of your child, that's thinking that your deeds are so impactful that because of something that you did wrong, something that great would happen. And that's haughtiness, that's gaiva. And he said, chas v'shalom, to think for one iota that it has to do with you, or something that you did, or something that you shouldn't have done. When children die, ketanim, under bar mitzvah, and certainly even younger than that, before they even reach the age of chinuch, 2, 3, our situation, it's out of the realm of understanding. It's HaKadosh Baruch Hu in His realm of making decisions, and you may have heard the famous concept that the neshamas there's such a concept called the Gilgal, that a neshama comes down and does what it needs to do, and then if it merits and doesn't finish what it needs to do, it has the opportunity to come down again to finish a job. And these neshamas sometimes need to come down for a year, for 2, for 3 years, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu looks for parents and looks for shaimrim, for guardians that he can trust, that I can give them this child for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever it is, as long as that neshama needs to be brought down again. and I'll be able to take it away, and they'll be able to cope and move on and understand that, they were chosen for this tafkid, which should make the parents feel actually full of pride. Now, again, this doesn't take away any pain. The pain is indescribable. It hurts. It's difficult. But when a person starts thinking and understanding that it's not what he or she did, on the contrary, they were chosen, they were selected by HaKadosh Baruch Hu to safeguard these neshamas for the 2, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever it is that they need to come down to be mesak and whatever it is, it gives them a sense, it sort of gives a sense of pride. Wow, what did we do right? How are we zoichet to be the ones that HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose us to be those parents of this child that's going to only come for 2, 3, 4, 5 years? I believe it's the Chafetz Chaim that says, there's a Mishnah in Chagiga, which I can't remember now the exact lashon, but it talks about certain things that a person is not supposed to involve himself with. Malafanim, mala'acha, what was, what will be. I forget the exact expressions of the Mishnah. And I believe the Chafetz Chaim says that children that die before bar or bar mitzvah go into one of those categories, and it's useless, and it's not more than useless. It's not something we think about because there is no rationale. There's no rationale. It's not understandable. It's HaKadosh Baruch Hu's realm. There's a concept in Shemona Esrei that we say HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Kel Elyon. Elyon means that l'mayla me'asagoseinu. We have to recognize and realize that there are things that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does that are above our being able to understand. And when a person is able to recognize that the loss of a child at a young age, is l'mayla me'asagoseinu, it's above our capability of being able to understand, it just makes it easier. Maybe easier is the wrong word. It makes it more, it makes the person able to function a little bit more, recognizing that he's not dealing with something that has to make sense. When you have to try to make sense out of something, and it doesn't make sense, it frustrates you, it doesn't let you move on, it ties you down. When a person can accept that this is Elyon, this is HaKadosh Baruch Hu's way of doing things that we have absolutely no understanding, we don't have to burden ourselves as trying to make sense with something that seemingly doesn't make sense. There's a Vilna Gaon in the Hakdama of Shulchan Aruch, Chelek Aruch Chaim. Some Shulchan Aruchs have a pirush on Yala v'Yavai from the Vilna Gaon, and on the word Yerotzeh. I believe it's on the word Yerotzeh, Yala v'Yerotzeh. The Vilna Gaon says that Yerotzeh refers, it's built on a whole discussion when we say in davening, V'isha Yisrael l'sfilasam. So what are the Isha Yisrael today that we're asking Hashem to be mekabel? V'isha Yisrael, which fires are we referring to? Which karbanos are we referring to? And if you look in Shulchan Aruch, I think it's Siman Kuf Chaf, there's an interesting taz. It goes through 3 mahalchim exactly what we're referring to. One of the mahalchim is that it's referring to the neshamas of tzaddikim. And exactly what that means, again, it's beyond our understanding. The neshamas of tzaddikim on a mizbeach, we don't know what that means. But there's some sort of karbanos that take place today up in Shamayim, and we're asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu to be mekabel those. The Vilna Gaon on the word V'yerotzeh says that in addition to neshamas of tzaddikim, it says that the neshamas of tinoikos shaloi chatu, the neshamas of children that didn't sin, are also being brought as karbanos on the mizbeach lamala, And when we say a rotza, that these things, that these karbanos should be accepted, and it should be a rotza and an appeasement to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we're referring to the neshamas of these tinoika shleichatu. So again, we have to realize we those of us who had such children, we were chosen to have children that today, again, whatever that means, we don't know what it means, but that their neshamas are fulfilling the Yerotzeh that all of Klal Yisrael says every Rosh Chodesh, every Yom Tiv. You have to realize we're dealing with something, special, and it's important for those parents like ourselves to take pride in the fact that we had that schus, and to turn the situation around and realize that we were we were zeicha, so to say, to have something that other parents are not zeicha to have. There's a famous mashal that's used for different things, but something along the lines of a fellow walks into a plane and he sees a cockpit and he's like mesmerized with all the dials and all the buttons and all the gears and all the who knows what. And he asks the pilot, while he's waiting to get into his seat, could you explain to me that dial over there? And the pilot says, I can't explain you what that dial is, because you have to first understand the layout of the entire cockpit. If I explain you this, you'll understand then I can explain you what that dial is. Or a similar mashal to a fellow who, walks in, he's in shul, and he has tainus on the gabbai for the aliyahs he gave and the kibudim he gave to this person, and not to certain people that he thought should have gotten an aliyah. And he goes over to the gabbai after davening and he says, I don't understand. You didn't see that guest? How you tachin? You had to give that guy an aliyah? Well, what about this fellow? And the gabbai says, Anshuldik, Mir, excuse me, when was the last time you were in shul? And he says, I was away for 4 or 5 weeks. He goes, well, that person got 2 weeks ago, and that person got 3 weeks ago. You can't walk in not being around for such a long time and then have tainus. We have to realize that the calculation of neshamas, coming down, going up, it's started from Adam HaRishon with Chava, almost 6,000 years ago, 5,773 years ago, and to try to understand HaKadosh Baruch Hu, why did this neshama have to come down now and be taken away at such an early age? You can't ask that question, one cannot ask that question without seeing the entire world of Olam HaNeshamas, and it's impossible. And therefore, the question can't be addressed. We are incapable of hearing an answer, even if we were able to comprehend, but without seeing the entire scope and the entire gamut and everything, we can't understand. And again, that brings us back to realizing and recognizing that when we can process that this is all Elyon, it's above and not within our capability of understanding, it should make it easier to process. I remember on the way to the Levaya, my father-in-law, Rabbi Stefanski from Toronto, a mechanech for many years. I remember he told us something so powerful, and he told us, he said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't need any accountants to help him figure out why he does or doesn't do something. He knows why he did it, and he knows it's the best thing for everyone. And don't stress yourself with trying to make sense out of something which HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't need your help, and you're not going to be able to figure it out anyway. And just, knowing from the onset that this is not something we're going to be able to make sense out of, and again, just knowing that it's something beyond and just not for us to be able to comprehend. I believe, at least for myself, that and the sense of pride of recognizing that, yes, we were chosen to have such a child, such a special child that only needed a few years in this world, somehow is, I believe, and of course I think this is important to mention, that a person has koiches and strengths that they don't realize that they have. And it's all obviously given with siyata d'shmaya. But I remember clearly the first morning of Shivah. I could not walk out of my bedroom. I remember I got up, I was sitting on my bed, and I was crying, and I told my wife, I said, people are coming for minyan, I push it, it's not Megea. And she said, if you can't, you can't. I ended up, getting out there. And how I got from that stage to just being able to slowly get back into things, the Eibishter, the same Eibishter that gives the zetz, or that gives the patch, and maybe we shouldn't call it a patch, because we're talking now in a different sprach, we're not talking patch now, we're talking about some things we don't understand. But the Eibishter infuses a person with kaiches to be able to move on, to be able to process, to be able to accept, and also very important to realize that the pain will slowly begin to subside. There's always a hole, there's always memories, there's always triggers, but the pain and the how am I going to move on with time, it begins to slowly subside, and that's the matana of shikha. One never forgets who they had, what they lost, but that initial emotional pain that's seemingly impossible to deal with, slowly begins to ease and help, and then one can slowly move on and move forward. My main job in Denver when this took place was saying shiurim on behalf of the Kailal. Different groups, secular, from, not so from, different backgrounds. And I remember when I got back into my schedule and saying shiurim, so one of the groups I met with on Monday night was let's call it a mix of conservative, reformed, no one really from, that we would call orthodox, from. And I remember one of them saying something like, Rabbi, something like, your faith is just like unbelievable. We couldn't, I can't remember the exact words. We wouldn't be able to hold on to the faith like you if something like this happened to us. And I responded sort of naturally, Baruch Hashem, because of, I guess, the upbringing and who I am, again, all with siyata d'shmaya. I said, that's the only thing that's helping me move forward. I said, if I didn't have what to hold on to, if I didn't have the recognition that this is completely coming from the one above who knows what's best for everyone, I would be absolutely going insane. Because then I would have to figure out how to make sense out of it. I wouldn't have where to turn. I'd be going on in my mind. It's only because of the faith and recognizing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the source of all of this, that's the only thing that actually is helping me move forward now. To the contrary. And I believe I said something to them as well. I said, yesterday, then it was, I think it was I got back into things, maybe it took about 2-3 weeks. I said, Monday night she was alive, and Tuesday morning she was dead. And I said, could anyone here in this room explain to me what What happened? What was taken away, or what? How does one die? Like what happened? And I can't remember exactly the conversation, but I said, to me, it's very simple. There is what we call a neshama. There's a nishmas alekim chaim. There's a soul. And when HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes it out, the person dies. Because what else happened over here from eating supper Monday night to dying in a doctor's office? I said, there's nothing to point to. Like, what happened exactly? Nothing happened, except that there's something that gives life, controlled by Hashem, and when that's taken away, the person dies. So I said, on the contrary, it's just because of the faith, because of having the privilege of being able to rely and trust and know that Hashem is the source of everything, that is actually what's making me tick right now, because if it was anything else, I wouldn't know how I would be able to, I wouldn't know how I was coping.